It's another new beer from Morrisons, and this time it is North Brewing and their Invisible Cities. This is a hazy IPA at 6.7%. But what's it going to be like? Keep on watching to find out. Welcome back to Rucker's Beer Review. Today, another beer from the new range in Morrisons. This time we're heading to North Brewing for this beer called Invisible Cities. I do like their artwork. Very simple, but very striking. We've got quite a few. There's quite a few from North, though. We've got this one. We've got another one, which is sort of like a mountain IPA called Transmission. They've also got a West Coast Pale. So they do quite a lot. I mean, they've been in... Modular was one that had in Morrisons, and also, well, it was in Tesco. Green Curve was another one, and I have a slight suspicion this is going to be more like the Green Curve, because when I read, it doesn't tell me what hops are in it, but it does say a full-bodied and hazy IPA full of juicy orange, zesty lime, and creamy coconut flavour. That makes me think it's got Sabro in it, which obviously that Green Curve also had Sabro in it. But let's crack it open, get it in glass, and see whether it has got Sabro in it, and see what it's like. 6.7%, pretty good sort of volume for an IPA, pretty much close to that sort of sweet spot for me. But as I said, Modular, which was in Morrisons, is a very good beer. Green Curve's good. Lost Cosmonauts, which was another one in Tesco, is also good. So they make good beers, and their supermarket beers are pretty good. So beer in a glass. We've got a slight, I say slight hazy. Compared with, say, like the Northern Monk and the Rivington one, the Order of the North, this is a lot more orangey, sort of a less sort of yellowy, thick haze. We've got 3 fingers nearly of sort of off-white compacted head, though. Looks pretty good. Let's see what the aromas are like. A little bit subdued, really. I'm picking out a bit of orange and passion fruit. But I'm certainly not, if it has got Sabro in it, I'm certainly not picking that up from the aroma. Yeah, just more orange, more of that slight sort of orange sort of aroma. Let's see what it tastes like. Cheers, everyone. A lot of orange flavour in this. Orange and passion fruit. It's not what I would call a New England IPA. It's very much on that sort of, it almost is very much on the sort of middle ground. So you get orange and passion fruit flavours in there. I find it hard to pick out the sort of coconut. Yes, there's lime in there. There's citrus fruits in there. A little bit of mango. I'm not picking up Sabro though at all. I don't think this, if it's Sabro in here, it's very sort of subtle. I do think though there is some Sabro in there. I'm picking up a little bit of that coconut and that sort of, that pina colada, the lime, a little bit of creamy mint. It's definitely in there, but it's much lighter, and it's sort of, the body is not as thick as you'd expect from an IPA. It's a little bit lighter, more refreshing though, and it goes down really well. Orange is definitely in here, so I'm probably saying Sabro hops in here, and probably something like, oh, the orange flavour hop that I can never remember. No, not sure. Can't think of the top of my head. It's not bad though. It's very refreshing. I think maybe it's too cold for me to really pick out the flavours. Maybe once it sort of warms a little bit in the glass, then the flavours will come out more. I'm trying to remember that name of that hop that's very orangey. It's just completely, I've completely lost what that is. It always annoys me with cans of beer, and it's more with the supermarket. And to be honest, North, even that Green Curve, when it first came out, it had no hops on there, so you'd know. And Sabro was pretty new at that time, and so you thought, oh, this is different. This is flavours, all weird. And you thought it was maybe the Kybec, but it was the Sabro flavour. And then it suddenly appeared where you were seeing the hops on it, and it did say Sabro. So yeah, what's that hop? It's really annoying me, the flavour of that hop now. It will come to me at some point. In fact, I'm going to pause it and look it up. Okay, I'm back. Amarillo, that's the hop that I'm thinking of. I'm sure it's got hot Amarillo in it because it's definitely got those big sort of orange, juicy flavours. And Amarillo and Sabro seems to be a weird combination. Just making sure this is straight now. Yeah, it's... Let me go back to the start and describe this beer. So we're getting big hits of sort of orange and passion fruit. There's a little bit of something coming through like lime. It's that little bit of pina colada sort of flavour is coming through a little bit. But it's very, very subtle. It has got Sabro in it. It's not the main hop in this beer by a long way. So Amarillo, I would say, is the hop. It may have something like Mosaic or Citra in it as well to give that sort of tropicalness. Maybe even that Bavarian, is it Bavaria Blanc or Havignon Blanc? That's another one that has a sort of more sort of orangey, sort of citrus fruit flavours. It's difficult to sort of track. Orange is the big flavour though, and there's a little bit of, but it's just sort of, you get that hit of orange, then you get something else, but then it almost washes itself away very, very quickly. I don't know whether it's because I've literally got it out of the fridge and poured it out, so maybe it's too cold. It's certainly is very cold in terms of the flavour of it. Orange is big. There's something else in there. Maybe it will come to me afterwards. It's a very light-bodied beer. It's not overly creamy. It's light and soft. I wouldn't say the carbonation is not small. It's similar to that modular. It's similar to those sort of Los Cosmonauts as well. I'm not picking up that. I don't think that the creamy coconut, which you described, you're thinking zesty lime and creamy coconut. I'm really finding it difficult to pick up. There's like almost like the ghost of those sort of flavours. They're very sort of subtle in this beer. I think maybe I should have let it warm a little bit because it's too cold. There's a little element of earthiness in it as well. A little bit of that sort of slight pininess. But it is a bit weird that you get a big hit of orange, then you get something else, and then just when you're trying to sort of work out what that is, it just sort of washes itself away. There's no sort of back end to this beer. It's not bad though. I mean, saying all of that stuff sounds a bit negative, but actually it's a very drinkable beer. I've drank half of it just sitting here trying to remember Amarillo as the hop. I'm sure that's got Amarillo in it. I'd probably bet my life on it it's got Amarillo in it. So in terms of hops, you get, if you like those orangey sort of flavours, it's much more orangey, citrusy. I'm not picking up huge amounts of sort of big tropical notes. I'm really struggling. There is lime in there, but I'm struggling to pick up coconut. If the coconut is in there, the coconut flavour is a very subtle. I'd be interested to know if you've had this beer, have you picked that up? Because again, the thing is with Sabro, you it's either in it or it isn't. It's so obvious usually. I still think there is Sabro in it, but I think it's sort of very low amounts in terms of the Sabro hop in there. Just gives it something else without being too orange passion fruit flavours. It's not bad at all. It's a supermarket beer, and this one was, I think, $3.50, so pretty good value. But let's get some scores. Okay, the scores are in for Invisible City. This is a hazy IPA from the North Brewing Company. 6.7%. We're not sure what hops are in it. We think that it's Amarillo and Sabro, but I could be completely wrong. It's a weird one, this one. And I've sat and done the scores and I thought, yeah, this has not been my greatest review ever because I'm all over the place with it. It's just a very difficult beer to describe. I think when you go into a beer and you have this expectation of what it's going to taste like and it doesn't quite hit that expectation, you're just confused. You sort of think, is there something wrong with me? what I can say, it's a good beer. There's nothing wrong with this beer at all. It's nice and smooth and juicy, but because it hasn't got that sort of typical Sabro, which I think, because when you describe a beer with creamy coconut and lime, you think Sabro. That's the hop that comes to mind. But for me, there's a lot more orange and passion fruit in this beer. Let's go through those scores. So aroma, well, the big surprise, and that confused me from the start, was there's very little aroma. There's a slight orange, there's a slight passion fruit, and that is about it. And they're very, very slight. It almost smells more like a pale ale. 6.7% IPA, you expect bigger, more pungent aromas, and you're not getting this. So I'm giving it 11 for aroma. Appearance, well, it looks like a hazy IPA. We got nice lacing. We got a little bit of head there. It's a lovely sort of yellow golden color, not as yellowy as say like the recent one from Northern Monk, another new Morrisons beer. That was a very sort of more custardy yellow. This has got a sort of a much lighter sort of color, and it's much lighter in its body. So I'm giving it 8 for appearance. Flavor wise, it's orangey and passion fruity, which makes you sort of think it's one of those sort of, it's a very sort of typical IPA in those sort of flavors. You're not getting huge amounts of tropical flavors in terms, I mean, you get passion fruit, but you're not getting the mango really as much. If it's got Sabro, which usually has pineapple, I'm not getting much pineapple. I'm not getting much in terms of grapefruit. What I'm getting is that orange passion fruit, and there's a little subtleness of the coconut, a little subtleness of the lime, and sort of citrus fruits generally. And then it washes itself away. There's no sort of back end to this. There's no sort of, you'd expect a little bit of grapefruit on the back end, but it just sort of, it's a very sort of drinkable beer in that it's not overly dry on the back end. There's no bitterness in there. It just sort of, it hits you with that orange sort of passion fruit flavour. Then you think there's something else in there, but then just when you want to analyse what that is, it just disappears, and you think, I'll drink more. Orange, passion fruit, woof, it's gone. And you think, is there lime in there? Something stronger citrus than lemon, so you'd think that would be lime. Not grapefruit though. So flavour wise, I'm giving it 32. I don't, maybe that's a little bit derogatory, but it's still 32 is a good score. Let's face it, it's out 40. It's certainly juicy. It's certainly got some nice fruit flavours, and there's no bitterness, and it's very soft. So it ticks a lot of boxes, but I'm going to 32 for flavour. Value for money. Like all these beers that I buy, I always forget how much I paid for this. I think this was about $3.50. It seems about right. As I said, if you buy them from Morrisons, if you bought 4 of them, you would pay £10.50 for 4 of them, because you buy 3 and you get the cheapest one free. So obviously it's the one you buy. It'll be that off. So 4 for the price of 3, basically. So £10.50 for 4 beers. That works out what, 275, 270. 266, I think it is actually at the top of my head. 266 a beer. That is a very good value. So I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 for value. It's crazy, all the stuff with this beer, but I think 10 out of 10 is probably right. Actually, I'm just reading it now, and I must have skipped over it, looking at the zesty lime and creamy, and it says full-bodied with a full of juicy orange, and it's definitely got juicy orange. That's one part of the description that is true. Anyway, I diverge. Value for money, I've given it a 10 out of 10. I was going to give it 9, but I think 10 out of 10 because it's a 6.7% IPA. And you say if you buy 4 of them, you get for like $2.66. It's incredible value, really good value. It's a good beer, even if it doesn't quite drink like an IPA. There's a lightness, there's a juicy, light thinness about it. Anyway, 10 out of 10. That's the best score for this in terms of value. Overall experience. Well, the fact is, I've nearly drank it. I am starting to feel that 6.7%. It's not my first beer of the day. I think it's a very drinkable IPA at 6.7. Drinks less than it's 6.7. Drinks like a pale ale. It's light. It's juicy. It's quite refreshing. There's no sort of complexity. There's no real complexity to this beer. You get an orange. And that orange stays in your mouth a little bit. Passion fruit, which is always a very orangey sort of flavour as well, I think. Yeah, I find it very difficult to find any coconut. It's not as pronounced as a lot of beers with Sabro in it. But we don't even know if it's got Sabro, but when we see coconut, we think Sabro. I mean, it could have Sriracha Ace in it, but even Sriracha Ace is even more coconutty. It just doesn't have the lime and then there's definitely a little bit of lime in there. There's orange and passion fruit and lime. They're the big flavours, really. But I'm going on, and I talk about overall experience. Actually, it's a good beer. It's a very drinkable beer. It's quite a refreshing light beer, and I think you can almost drink it and think it's a pale ale. It drinks more like a pale ale. It's light. It's got soft body, but it's very, very light, and the flavours sort of almost, without sounding, they're not watery, but they sort of wash away very, very easily. So they don't stay around, so it makes it easier to keep drinking it. 14, I'm giving it for overall experience. Let's get to the punchline. We top those scores up, we get 75, right bang in the middle of a recommended beer. It's a good beer, and if you're looking for a new beer from the supermarket that you might want to buy a few off and just enjoy, then this is probably the one to go for, because I've still got the can here. The Order of the North was a very good beer, but it was a lot more chewy and a little bit more danker. And okay, it's 7%, but you're probably less likely to drink a couple of those or 4 of those than you would 4 of these, because this goes down really well. And it's 6.7%, it's still quite high. So be careful if you do have 4. But 75 is a good score. I think on a different day, I would probably score it higher. Maybe it's too cold. I'm not picking out the coconut, but it's a good beer. Maybe in a few months' time, it will have the hops on it and hopefully it will say, yeah, Amarillo and Sabro. Maybe something like there's a little earthiness, maybe Simcoe. I don't know, but that's enough for me for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. 75 out of 100. It's still a good score. Supermarket beers, Morrisons. I'm confident we've got some good beers from Morrisons. There's another North Brewing, which is a mountain IPA, which is one of those funny ones. If there's anything that was described mountain IPA, this is it really. Orange passion fruit, usually get that with West Coast, but it's soft, it's low levels of carbonation, no bitterness, which you would associate with East Coast. So you'd almost say this is more mountain IPA. We've got another beer from Wild Child Brewery, which I think is almost like a budget brewery when it comes to it. But it's a New Zealand IPA, and I love New Zealand hops, so I'm looking forward to that one as well. We've got that. And there's a few from Magic Rock, Pale Ale, and IPA. So there's lots of good stuff. I'm looking forward to the salt one when I get hold of that as well. I've whittled on enough. But just the scores have been over 8 minutes, so I'm leaving it for today. And until the next one, keep on rocking.